I'm very happy to be here today. This is a very important topic and there seems to be a lot of interest in it. So hopefully I will do the presentation justice. The topic is broad enough to include many different things according to mental health, taming our anxiety, sleep hygiene, etc. So off we go. All right. So I just want to begin a little bit with anxiety, and I'm just going to move the screen here so I can see everyone. So anxiety seems to be the root of everything, why we can't sleep, why we stress, etc. Right? So anxiety is a normal feeling of uneasiness, concern, and apprehension that when carried to an extreme can become worry or outright terror, right? Some amount of anxiety and worry is normal and a necessary part of life, right? It just keeps us going. These kind of concerns help keep us aware and alert, but don't interfere with our daily life in any way. On the contrary, worry on this level means that our internal protective systems are doing what they're supposed to do. So, it's okay to be a little anxious and worry about things on a moderate level. Okay. Anxiety rooted in stress is what's commonly known as fight or flight. We've heard about that. And it's a physical and emotional response to real or perceived danger. This kind of anxiety, although it can be very uncomfortable, is still very useful in that it helps us respond to a crisis. So what happens with anxiety, right? Those of us that have experienced anxiety or, are just a little bit on the continuum, this is kind of what happens. With anxiety, our worry goes up. Because we're so worried, our restlessness goes up, our irritability goes up, and our tension goes up. When we're highly anxious like this, what also happens is that our concentration goes down, our sleep goes down, we can't sleep, our energy goes down because we're spending all of our energy and all of our time worrying about things, and it really is wreaking havoc on our ability to cope. So I really like this, this graphic here, and it shows us where we're at on the continuum, right? And it always jumps the gun before I finish talking about this, but where we really want to be is in the middle, okay? A balance. So this is where we want to be. But things happen throughout the day and it kind of shifts back and forth, but eventually it goes back to our balance when the worry or subsides or what you're stressed out about subsides or gets a little less. And that's okay. This is a healthy anxiety on the continuum. What happens when that anxiety continues and there's no reprieve for it and you're always highly anxious or worrying and just stressed and everything, you get stuck. Okay, you get stuck in the activation phase, and that barrier demonstrates what happens when you get stuck in the activation phase and you cannot move back to your balance. And this is when we start to have some concerns, right? So what happens when you're constantly in that activation phase and you're not moving back to your balance? Okay, you're hyper aroused anxiety, you're overstimulated, you're distracted, you're irritable, and you're almost so activated that you're electric. Okay, this is when we start to have some areas of concern. This is when anxiety can present itself as being a daily issue. With no reprieve from that, it can turn into a crisis. And crisis mode is not where you want to be. Crisis is when you may get into your panic attacks, thoughts of suicide, and it can lead to psychosis. So that's why it's really, really important to watch our anxiety, watch our stress levels before they get over the top and start to create issues in our daily life. So this is some of the stages of anxiety. As I said, number 1 and 2 are perfectly normal. Everybody, experiences this day to day. So, our worry, normal, low grade concerns, stress, right? There's stress in our lives. It's what motivates us sometimes. And then it can just go to anxiety, brief alarm. And this is usually when something's going on in your life. For example, moving, selling a house, exactly. And then it goes back to normal after the situation has, gone away. But then again, if it continues, it can lead to generalized anxiety disorder, which is a constant low-grade worry, constant yellow alert. And this is when we start to, start to see that this is maybe something that is creating a bit of an issue in your life. If that's not taken care of or nipped in the bud or addressed, it can really lead to, the red alert, which is your panic attacks, which can happen uncontrollably, inexplicably. And when you get a panic attack, you really don't know what's happening or what's hit you. Okay. So this is the cycle of anxiety. With the cycle, it goes around and around and around and around, never gets better until it's addressed. So you have your triggers, right? With the trigger, there's an internal and external trigger that starts the cycle. It can be anything. It can be anything. And with that trigger starts those thoughts. You have your negative or fearful thoughts. They start to get into your mind like that. And, we call that stinking thinking, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. With those thoughts, it kind of leads to anxiety because these thoughts are just getting the better of you. And it leads to anxiety or a panic response. And then it can turn into beliefs, okay? That beliefs are formed and perpetuate the cycle, okay? I believe this is happening. My stinking thinking has got the better of me, and it's gonna happen. It almost becomes self-fulfilling. And again, with these beliefs, you have a trigger and it goes around and around and around. So it's really important that we not get stuck in that cycle of anxiety. Just want to show you a little bit how anxiety manipulates you. Pardon me, just going to take a sip here. We have self-doubt. Anxiety makes us question ourselves. And once that self-doubt creeps in, anxiety makes it grow and take over how we view ourselves. Fear is a big part of anxiety, okay? Fear causes anxiety. Anxiety causes fear. Fear of what you think might happen or might not happen, okay? And these worries, they get into what ifs, and these thoughts turn into worst case scenarios. And these thoughts are related to our fears. This way of thinking puts worst case scenarios in our minds, effectively trapping us and causing us to be stuck, like that barrier I showed you on the continuum, okay? It's really difficult to get unstuck when we really get stuck in that barrier, okay? Our need for control, we don't want our perceived fears to materialize, and the word is perceived. We've created all these thoughts in our minds, and we want to control that situation so that all these thoughts that were created in our mind of what could happen or what could not happen, we need to control that. We hate being plagued by this constant self-doubt that anxiety puts in our minds. We're tired of all of our worrying, and to get rid of them, we focus on them too much and trying very hard to control them. So sometimes when, we see an individual and they seem very rigid, it's usually because their anxiety is getting the better of them and they need to control every situation. So we talked about the stinking thinking, and what those are cognitive distortions and anxiety. And you can work yourself up to these thoughts to the point where you actually start to believe them, and it starts to impact every areas of your life. It creates stress in your lives. It makes it difficult to sleep, and you get stuck in that cycle of anxiety that I showed earlier. So cognitive distortions are irrational thoughts that can influence your emotions. And the operative word is irrational. It may seem very rational to you, but usually they are irrational thoughts that are just stuck in your mind that you can't move past. Everyone experiences these cognitive distortions to some degree, but persons experiencing anxiety and extreme stress experiencing them in the most extreme forms. So let's take a look at some of these distortions. There are many, but I only chose 4 for the purposes of time. So there's a mental filtering, and we're disqualifying the positive. Mental filtering is a cognitive distortion where a person tends to focus on negative events rather than the positive outcomes of a situation. When people are disqualifying the positive, they're focusing on what's not working rather than what's working. And this type of distortion can actually become self-fulfilling if you allow the anxiety to get the better of you. So in order to work through this type of cognitive distortion, you need to get into the habit of always looking for the positive in every situation. This takes practice, but it can be done. Okay. Another one is jumping to conclusion. Who doesn't jump to the conclusions? I mean, I do, right? We all do. But this is a cognitive distortion where we tend to interpret the meaning of a situation with little or no evidence, right? And with irrational assumptions again. There goes that word irrational again. So we become mind readers, don't we? Assuming that we know what people are thinking without actual facts. And we call that predictive thinking. We also become fortune tellers, don't we? Assuming that we know that something will turn out badly. The problem is that these assumptions are usually never based on facts or concrete evidence, but they're just based on our stinking thinking, the thoughts that have entered into our brain that we can't move past. So as a result, this type of thinking perpetuates anxiety and stress. But to overcome this type of thinking, you need to take a step back and look at the evidence and facts before jumping to conclusions. Okay. Personalization is another cognitive distortion where we constantly take the blame for absolutely everything that goes wrong in our lives, even if it's realistically out of our control. And we likely didn't have anything to do with it at all. We just personalize it instead of really looking at the big picture. To successfully work through this type of thinking, ask yourself what part you played in the situation. And you might just realize that you're not entirely to blame and you have nothing to do with the situation. Okay, black and white thinking. I'm bad for this. I'm a black and white thinker, but I'm working on it. So black and white thinking is a cognitive distortion where we tend to see things as all or nothing. Things are good or bad or right or wrong, right? With that black and white thinking, there's really, no room for looking at the gray, and there's a lot of gray in our lives. So in other words, anxiety and stress often causes us to see the extreme situations and no middle ground. This is a very unhelpful way of thinking about things because we can never see other viewpoints or situations. We really get stuck in that black and white way of thinking. So to overcome this way of thinking, you need to challenge yourself and look at other viewpoints, step outside of your comfort zone, and look at different interpretations of all situations. Catastrophizing, we all know this one, right? The worst case scenario. So catastrophizing is a cognitive distortion where we tend to blow things out of proportion. This is very irrational too, because, we are really making a mountain out of a molehill when really it's just a molehill. And, we make things out to be a lot worse than the situation actually is. Anxiety causes us to catastrophize, which always makes problems larger than life in our minds, which of course then makes them even harder to overcome because you have created a mountain in your mind. To work through this way of thinking, question whether things are really as bad as you're making them out to be. Take a step back, look at the big picture. Okay, and you too can change your negative thoughts. Okay. One way of doing this is cognitive reframing. So what this is basically you're reframing your thoughts. So you're reframing the way you're looking at things by changing your experience of it. And reframing really helps us to alter our perceptions and will really reduce anxiety, stress, and create more positive life for us. Okay. So how does reframing work? You need to learn about your thinking patterns to recognize your negative thinking. So we need to be aware and alert that these negative thoughts are coming into our minds, and we need to nip them in the butt before it really starts to get out of control and you get stuck in that cycle of anxiety and stress. Okay. So using these reframing techniques can actually change your physical response to stress because the body's stress response is triggered by perceived stress, right? That's very important. Even if it's really not there or the situation is not as bad as you think it is, your body will respond to the perceived stress, the thoughts that you've let enter into your mind, and not actual events. So if you perceive that you're threatened physically or psychologically by a situation, your fight or flight response will kick in. And a pessimistic approach to life experiences tends to create more anxiety and leads to less successful outcomes. So we have to learn to notice our thoughts. We need to kind of get that awareness that, oh no, here comes this stinking thinking. Here I'm starting to worry about this and worry about that, stressing myself out. Here comes these thoughts. So when you learn to notice your thought and you're slipping into that overly negative and anxiety-inducing patterns of thinking, being aware of these thoughts creeping into your head is an important part of challenging them and ultimately changing them. So one thing you can do is just become more mindful of your thoughts when you catch these negative thinking styles. Just note them at first. As you become more aware, it's really easy to notice your thoughts rather than remaining caught up in them. And then you challenge your thoughts. As you notice these negative thoughts, an effective part of reframing these negative thoughts is, examining for truth and accuracy or the lack thereof of these thoughts. So you need to ask yourself, are these things you're telling yourself even true? Also, some other ways to interpret the same set of events? Which ways of seeing things serve you better? Instead of seeing things the way you always have, and that way it must be so, challenge every negative thought and see if you can adopt thoughts that fit your situation, but reflect a more positive outlook. This takes practice, but you can. And eventually you can replace your negative thoughts with more positive thoughts. And this is a very useful trick that we can all put into practice. When you're looking at something negative, see if you can change your self-talk, use less strong, less negative emotions. And when you're looking at a potentially stressful situation, see if you can view it as a challenge versus a threat. View difficult situations in a less negative manner with more of an optimistic and positive approach. So negative thinking will never make your life positive. Okay? All right. So ways to tame the monkey mind. You guys have probably heard of the monkey mind, monkey brain, right? So just want to give a little bit of history about this monkey mind. The monkey mind is a really interesting concept in Buddhist teachings. It's based on the premise that there's this voice in our head that's always speaking to us and guiding us, which is a good thing. A good analogy to help understand the concept of the monkey mind is imagining that each of our thoughts is a branch, and all these thoughts are swinging on these branches all day long, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. A monkey is very active, and when we use that monkey mind analogy, it kind of gives us an idea of all the thoughts that are going back in our mind, back and forth. So each branch and monkey represents a human thought or emotion that's trying to gain the most attention. One monkey that is particularly loud is fear. And this tries to take over every other thought in our mind by pinpointing everything that might go wrong. A monkey mind lets go of one thought only to grasp onto another. And the constant activity in your mind results in anxiety, worry, stress, and loss of sleep. You might be afraid that your thoughts are out of control. So a monkey mind is exhausting, yet very common. So how do we work on quieting your monkey mind so that you can have that sense of calm and well-being? And the good news is that you can control your monkey mind. So let's look at some ways to quiet your monkey mind and reduce your stress. So with deep breathing and meditation is the most common way to reduce all that noise that's going on in your brain with a monkey mind. So deep breathing exercise is a wonderful stress reliever, and it's an easy stress reliever that has numerous benefits for your body, including relaxing the muscles and quieting your mind. breathing exercises are especially helpful because you can practice them anywhere. Perhaps more importantly is that they work really quickly to de-stress you, and that's what you want. So this basic breathing exercise that we're going to do next can be done anywhere to help you reverse your stress response, getting back to being more proactive than reactive and face stress with greater resilience. Okay, so you don't have to stand up, but you can if you want. So we're going to look at exhilaration breathing. So basically with exhilaration breathing, and I just want you to practice this in your chair. Feel free to stand up if you like. So you're basically breathing in, you're taking a big breath in. While you're breathing in, slowly raise your arms over your head towards the ceiling. Then reverse the order, breathing out and exhale. Slowly return your arms to your sides when you're exhaling. Do this a few times. Up to inhale, down to exhale. And usually around 5 times is really effective to just calm you. Do this even longer if you need to until you feel relaxed. Deep breathing can be done anytime, anywhere. And it's actual science. Deep breathing provides extra oxygen to your blood and causes the body to release endorphins, which are your feel-good hormones in our brain. And these hormones will energize us and promote relaxation. So again, slowly inhale through your nose, allow your lungs to fill with air, hold in your breath, then exhale slowly with your arms down to your side. Right? I find when I'm doing this one and I'm demonstrating, I'm actually calm and I'm going, oh no, I need to continue. I can't be this calm, but it actually works. So try it. It's easy to do, and you can do that in any time. Another type of just de-stressing exercise is progressive muscle relaxation. Like breathing exercises, PMR will give you a moment to regroup and get calm. It's a relaxing and effective technique for calming anxiety, reducing stress. So this simple technique involves tensing and relaxing all of the muscles in your body in order from your head down to your feet. So let's just get started, okay? So make yourself comfortable. It's more effective to lie down and stretch out, but that's okay. You can sit in a chair and that's just works as effective as well. So if you have your arms crossed or your legs crossed, just make sure that you're all relaxed and have easy circulation and your body's able to relax. So first and foremost, I just want everyone to just relax. Let go of your tension. Now exhale and relax completely, just go as limp as you can. Let your face go completely lax as though you were sleeping. Feel the tension seep away from your facial muscles and enjoy that feeling. Take your time and relax completely before you move on to the next step. So then you're relaxing your shoulders, your neck, all right? You're going down to your hips and your legs. And then you're relaxing, your knees, your shins, and your feet, okay? Do this until every fiber of your being is relaxed. Relaxed. I'm not going to do this one, all right? So you're just limp as a rag doll, being aware of every muscle in your body relaxing, okay? And there you go. So deep breathing and progressive muscle relaxation is a great way to quickly, easily settle you down. Another one is mindfulness meditation. And mindful meditation, a lot of people don't really understand meditation. They think that, you need to sit there for 30 minutes going home and all that. That is one way of meditating. However, the mindfulness meditation is something that you can do quickly and easier to do. So with mindfulness meditation, this is basically taking your breathing exercises a step further and just doing this 5-minute mini meditation to calm you down at the moment. So mindfulness meditation has many wonderful benefits for stress management. One of the most valuable aspects of meditation is that it builds your resilience over time, because once you learn how to do this, you can go to your happy place whenever there's that stress going on in your life. And it also makes you feel less stressed in minutes. And it's simply a tool that you can use over and over again to relax your body and mind. Okay, so how we do this, and we're not going to do this today. I'm just going to give you some tools so that when you do have the time, you can do this, or you can practice along with me, but that's your choice. So with mindfulness meditation, you have to set aside some time, and you want to set your timer for 5 minutes so you can relax and not worry about staying in meditation for too long. Eventually, if you want and you can train your brain, you can do meditation for a lot longer. But 5 minutes is usually effective to just calming your mind. So you want to relax your body, and you want to close your eyes and just relax. And you take a few deep breaths, first and foremost, to relax your diaphragm and get the tension out of your body. And again, you're just letting everything escape, and your muscles are relaxed, okay? And you're prepping yourself for the meditation to start. So we want to clear your mind. So when you focus on clearing your mind of thoughts, rather than focusing on thinking of nothing, just focus on being, right? Focus on the present. And you're going to have thoughts entering your mind, right? Oh, I'm sitting here and I need to do this, I need to do that. That's okay. Acknowledge that these thoughts are drifting into your mind when you're trying to you're trying to be present, and just let them go. Return your focus to the present again, okay? If you focus on how well you're doing this, that becomes your focus. If you accept that constantly bringing your mind back to the present moment is the meditation, it will be much easier to keep your mind still. So you're focusing on the present. You're making your mind as clear as possible, okay? You're going to have those thoughts creeping in, but again, notice that and just let them go. Keep going. Continue this for 5 minutes and return to your day feeling more relaxed and refreshed. Simply focus on the sensations you are feeling in your body. Focus on your breath, or focus on letting go. We don't calm our minds often enough, and that brings our, monkey brain to the forefront. Let our thoughts go. Focus on being present. And try this mindfulness meditation regularly, and it will help you feel less stressed overall. It takes practice, but eventually this will be part of your toolbox. You can even go longer if you want, and try to incorporate this into your day-to-day life. Okay. So all of this, our stress, our anxiety can really do a number on our sleep hygiene and our sleep patterns. Okay. And Mary Lou, thank you for bringing a lot of those important tips at the beginning of the presentation. I learned a couple of things too. So let's look at sleep hygiene. Okay, and sleep hygiene is basically described as how to incorporate proper sleep patterns into our lives. Okay, sleep patterns are very important. So this is what happens when we sleep, right? We all know this. We know what happens when we sleep. We know what happens when we don't sleep. But I just want to point it out. So when we sleep, our memories are consolidated and stored, believe it or not, right? This is necessary for learning, and it also increases our ability to concentrate and pay attention is restored. I apologize for the phone ringing. I thought I had turned it off. Okay, we maintain better mental health and physical health, and our metabolism is regulated. Okay. Muscles repair and recover. So getting a good night's sleep is extremely important in our lives. So what happens when we don't sleep? And I put some points in the right-hand corner because the graphic didn't really enlarge. So when we don't sleep, our judgment and concentration is impaired. Reaction time is slow and more accidents occur. We get clumsy. Emotions are heightened, causing irritability, anger, or anxiety. I know when I don't get enough sleep, I'm a little snappy. Release of appetite stimulating hormones that can result in weight gain. People who chronically don't sleep well release the hormone called ghrelin, and that can contribute to weight gain. Okay? And our immune system is suppressed and increases the risk of illness. So we all know that sleep is super important. It's a very important part of our lives. And a good and restful night's sleep helps to reduce our stress and makes us able to deal with our day-to-day lives. You know, we all know how well we feel after we're well rested. But sometimes getting that good night's sleep can be elusive. So let's look at some sleep hygiene tips that can help us get to some slumberland and stay in slumberland. Because some of us, like myself, when I'm stressed out, I can get to sleep, but I can't stay asleep, or I get up super early, like 4 o'clock in the morning. So sleep hygiene is the term that's used to describe good sleep habits. So let's take a look at some of that. So I'm going to go through some sleep hygiene tips. So get regular. One of the best ways to train your body to sleep is to go to bed and get up at the same time, more or less every day, even on the weekends and days off. So you establish that routine so you're able to fall asleep and you're able to get a night's sleep and you're able to get up at the same time. So getting into that regular routine really helps you to get that good sleep. Sleep when sleepy. That seems kind of obvious, but you know, maybe people go to bed and they're not quite tired yet, or they didn't have a busy day and they go, well, it's 11 o'clock, I should go to sleep. But try to sleep when you actually feel tired or sleepy, rather than spending too much time awake in bed thinking, I need to go to bed because if I don't, you know, I'm going to be super tired the next day. I find myself that when I'm not able to fall asleep, it's more stressful and non-sleep inducing when I try to force myself to go to bed. So you're tossing and turning and tossing and turning. So a good way to get around that is just to get up and try again. If you haven't been able to get to sleep after about 20 minutes or more, get up and start doing something calming or boring, and that'll make you go to sleep until you feel sleepy, and then return to bed and try again. Okay, forcing yourself to go to sleep, it's just very stressful and it really doesn't work, does it? So you can sit quietly on the couch with the lights off. A bright light will tell your brain that it's time to wake up. So if you go downstairs or upstairs and turn on your light, not good. So just kind of, you know, stay in the darkness a little bit, or have a low light, or read. Avoid doing anything that's too stimulating or interesting, as this will wake you up even more. Don't wake up at 4 o'clock and start checking your work emails. I've been known to do that. So we all know to avoid caffeine and nicotine, and it's best to avoid consuming any caffeine in coffee, tea, Coca-Cola, chocolate, some medications, or nicotine for at least 4 to 6 hours before going to bed. These substances act as stimulates and interfere with the ability to fall asleep. I know some people that they have a coffee before going to bed, that makes them fall asleep. That is not I. So you know what works for yourself, and try to avoid stimulants a few hours before you go to bed. That way, you know, it does interfere with your ability to fall asleep. It'll also wake you up throughout the night, and we don't want that. Also avoid alcohol. I remember my, early university days where you would go out having a night of drinking and you would crash as soon as you went to bed. But those were very fitful sleeps, and I remember tossing and turning. So it's really good to avoid alcohol at least 4 to 6 hours before you go to bed. Some people like to have a cocktail before they go to bed. They feel it relaxes them, but it actually doesn't. It does disrupt your sleep pattern. Okay, so bed is for sleeping. Try not to use your bed for anything other than sleeping and sex, so that your body comes to associate bed with sleep. If you use your bed as a place to watch TV, eat, read, work on your laptop, pay bills, and other things, your body will not learn this connection. It will not, relax itself to go to sleep. This is not your desk. Your bed is not your desk. Your bed is for sleeping, for relaxing. Try not to take naps. I know a lot of people, when they get older, do take naps. I know that a lot of friends who are retired, a lot of my friends who are retired already take afternoon naps and then tell me that they can't sleep at night. I'm so tired this morning, I tossed and turned and tossed and turned. And I said, like taking naps can really be what's keeping you up at night. So if you can, try to avoid taking naps during the day to make sure that you're tired at bedtime. If you can't make it through the day, however, without a nap, make sure it's less than an hour and before 3 p.m. Okay. Sleep rituals is another important tip. You can develop your own rituals of things to remind your body that it's time to go to sleep. Some people find it useful to do relaxing exercises or breathing exercises for 15 minutes or so before bed each night. That's when you can do your deep breathing or progressive muscle relaxation if you like, or sit calmly with a cup of caffeine-free tea. My evening ritual is caffeine-free peppermint green tea. And by the time I finish that cup of tea, I'm nodding off in my chair. So that's my evening ritual. Bath time. Having a hot bath or a hot shower a couple hours before bedtime can be really useful as well. It can raise your body temperature, causing you to feel sleepy as your body temperature drops again. And research shows that sleepiness is associated with a drop in body temperature. So no clock watching. Many people who struggle with sleep tend to watch the clock too much. Frequent checking the clock, especially during the night, can wake you up, especially if you turn on the light to read the top. And reinforces negative thoughts as, oh no, look how late it is. I'll never get to sleep, or it's so early, or I've only slept for 3 hours. This is terrible. I do that. I wake up and it's 2:30 and I say, okay, so then I fall asleep and I wake up and, oh boy, it's 3:30. So just don't look at that. Don't look at that. Just focus on getting back to sleep. Use a sleep diary. Sometimes using a sleep diary or having a sleep journal, it's a useful way of making sure you have the right facts about your sleep rather than making assumptions. So if you're having trouble sleeping one night, or you're waking up several times a night, or just ridiculously early, try to write down what you did that night before you went to sleep to see if there was something that you ate or drank or stressed out about that maybe, disrupted your sleep patterns. And keeping track of that can just kind of make you aware of, oh, well, I did this, or I didn't do that. And just, being aware of that can kind of train you to not do that or do that. That was helpful in keeping you, letting you have a good night's sleep. Exercise. So regular exercise is a good thing to help with stress. But, try not to do strenuous exercises around 4 hours before bedtime. Morning walks are a great way to start the day feeling refreshed, or an early evening walk, but exercising soon before bedtime, exercise energizes us, right? So you don't want to be energized before you go to bed. You want to be decompressed and ready to fall asleep. Eating right as well. A healthy, balanced diet will help you to sleep well, but timing is important. Some people find that an empty stomach at bedtime is distracting. So it's helpful to have a light snack before bedtime, but a heavy meal can also, before bed, can also interrupt your sleep. So some people recommend a warm glass of milk, a nice decaffeinated tea. Warm milk contains tryptophan, which acts as a natural sleep inducer. So a light snack or a nice warm cup of milk or tea or, really does anything just to relax you before going to bed. The right space is also very important. It's important that your bed and bedroom are quiet and comfortable enough for sleeping. A cooler room with enough blankets to stay warm is best. And make sure that you have curtains or an eye mask to block out early morning light and earplugs if there's noise outside your room. I have blinds in my room, but I find if it has snowed and snow makes everything brighter, it will wake me up because to me, it's light in the room and it's just kind of, oh, it's time to wake up. So I try to, take the blinds as down as possible to make sure that I'm not awakened by fresh snow and thinking it's time to wake up. So keep your daytime routine the same. If you have a bad night's sleep and are tired, it's important that you try to keep your daytime activities the same as you had planned, right? If you're tired, maybe you have that tendency to sleep because you're tired, you didn't sleep well. I see this with my mother. If she has a bad night's sleep, she, naps and then, the cycle repeats itself. She can't get to bed because she napped a lot. So that is, don't avoid activities just because you feel tired. That can reinforce the insomnia to continue that same night. Okay. And I want to leave you with some really good points. I actually have this up on my bulletin board. It's a great reminder. And it's something that we can incorporate into our lives every day to calm our monkey brain, reduce our stress, and ultimately improve our sleeping. So we need to slow down. We need to keep calm. We need to keep positive. We need to take it easy, unplug, enjoy life, have fun. Don't remember that. Breathe, relax. Go outside, bundle up. Today's a nice day. I'm actually going for a walk. It's going to be a full 4 degrees. I'm going outside for my walk. Smile and meditate. Okay. Eventually you can build that up if you want, but 5 minutes of meditation, clearing your mind, thinking about nothing, letting those thoughts go into our mind is very helpful to calming us, building our resilience, improving our mental health, and staying mentally well. Thank you.